Imagine you're in the middle of the sea, clinging to a plank you believe will keep you afloat. That plank represents the people you trust, the relationships that have supported you your entire life. But one day, you realize they're not made of wood, but paper. They fall apart in your hands just when you need them the most. Now what? Most people live under the illusion that there will always be someone by their side, that family, friends, or even a partner will be there when hard times come. But the truth is, no one is obligated to stay. And when that reality hits you, you have two choices: sink into bitterness or learn to swim on your own. Today, we're going to talk about what it truly means to be independent, not just materially, but deep within yourself. You're going to discover why the fear of loneliness weakens you, how to shield your mind against disappointment, and the secret to building relationships without making yourself vulnerable. And stay until the end, because the final lesson will forever change how you decide who truly deserves to be in your life. I'm Gabriel, and what you're about to hear might shake you, but it can also give you the greatest freedom you've ever known. How many people have you welcomed into your life, trusting they'd be there when you needed them the most, only to discover that at the crucial moment, their presence was nothing but a shadow? It's hard to admit, but sometimes we cling to the idea that certain people are permanent, that love, friendship, or blood guarantee loyalty. We were raised to believe that if we give our best, if we sacrifice, if we are always available, it will protect us from abandonment. But reality is different. Life doesn't work with those kinds of guarantees. And if you don't break away from that illusion, you'll be doomed to disappointment over and over again. Breaking the biggest illusion of your life before it consumes you is the first step toward true independence. Because emotional dependence, the blind attachment to the presence or approval of others, is the heaviest chain you can carry. If you expect others to repay everything you've given, to be fair, to respond with the same devotion, you're putting yourself in a dangerous position. Not because giving is wrong, but because giving while expecting something in return is the fastest path to frustration. I remember the story of a man named Samuel, 72 years old, father of 3, widowed for a decade. He worked his entire life to ensure his family never lacked anything. He deprived himself of trips, personal pleasures, even rest, because he always put his loved ones first. When he became a widower, he thought his children would be his refuge. He believed that after all he had done for them, they would give him the same love and care in return. But life had other plans. Over time, visits became less frequent, calls more sporadic, and what was once a home filled with voices became a place of silence. One day, Samuel told me something I will never forget. "Gabriel, I was wrong. I thought that if I sacrificed myself for others, they would do the same for me. But life is not a business of fair exchanges. No one is obligated to stay." And he was right. The problem was never his love or his generosity, but his expectation. His mistake was building his happiness on the assumption that others would act as he would. But no one sees the world the same way, and expecting them to do so only leads to suffering. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus taught that the only thing truly ours is our mind, our perception of events. If you base your peace on something you cannot control, you are building on sand. Family, friends, relationships, all of that is valuable, but none of it belongs to you. Everything can change, and most of the time, it will. The question is, what will you do when that happens? The first step to not depending on anyone is breaking the illusion of permanence. It's not about becoming cold or distrustful, but about accepting reality with courage. Life is movement. People come and go, and clinging to the idea that someone will be your immovable rock will only make you more fragile. When you release that expectation, something incredible happens. You free yourself. You stop measuring your happiness based on others and start finding it within yourself. Don't wait for reality to hit you like it hit Samuel. Don't let disappointment turn you into someone bitter or resentful. Instead, start seeing love and companionship for what they truly are. Gifts, not rights. Enjoy those who are with you while they are, but never place your stability in someone else's hands. Because the day those hands let go, if you've built your life on your own strength, you won't fall. You'll remain standing. If the first blow of reality is realizing that no one is obligated to stay, the second is even deeper. The fear of being alone is your greatest enemy. And not because loneliness itself is bad, but because the terror it causes makes us make poor decisions. We cling to people who no longer add value to our lives, tolerate abuse disguised as affection, and even betray ourselves just to avoid facing the silence. But what's worse, living a life where you depend on others to feel complete or learning to find your own strength in solitude. This fear of being alone doesn't come out of nowhere. It's built from childhood when we are taught that love and companionship are the greatest guarantees of happiness. We grow up with the idea that being surrounded by family, friends, or a partner is what defines us. And when we reach adulthood and start to see that life doesn't offer those guarantees, that children build their own lives, that friendships fade, that the bed grows cold over the years, we become frightened. We were taught to share, but not to be at peace with ourselves. And that's where the problem begins. When you don't know how to be alone, you'll do anything to avoid it. Think about how many times you've seen someone stay in a relationship that doesn't make them happy, simply because they're afraid of having no one, or those who fill their days with pointless distractions just to avoid facing their own company. And if we're honest, how many times have you felt that emptiness in your chest when you realize that if you don't call anyone, the phone won't ring? It's a hard thought, but a necessary one, because the solution is not to run away from that feeling, but to learn to turn it into something powerful. The Stoics taught us that true strength lies in not depending on anything external to find peace. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "If you have a fortress within you, no misfortune can break you." That fortress is nothing more than the ability to enjoy your own company, to find meaning in your life beyond the presence of others. Because when you learn to be okay with yourself, the world loses its power over you. You no longer need anyone's validation. You no longer live with the anxiety of being accepted or remembered. You become truly free. The key is to change the way you perceive loneliness, not as a punishment, but as a sacred space, a time where you can listen to your own thoughts without the noise of others, where you can reconnect with what you truly want without anyone else's expectations. There's a huge difference between imposed loneliness and chosen solitude. The former makes you feel like a victim. The latter gives you control over your life. Imagine if you stopped seeing loneliness as a curse and started treating it as an ally. Instead of trying to fill every minute with distractions, you decide to use that time to get to know yourself, to read what you always postponed, to write about your own reflections, to care for your body and spirit. The Bible reminds us in Psalm 46, "Be still and know that I am God." How many times have you allowed silence to reveal truths to you instead of running from it? The fear of loneliness is a reflection of our emotional dependence. But when you face it, when you accept it, you discover something amazing. Not only can you be alone, but you can enjoy it. And once you reach that point, something changes within you. You no longer relate to others out of need, but out of choice. And when you choose, you are free. If the fear of loneliness is your enemy, there's something that makes it even more dangerous, believing that you need others to be strong. But it's only when you fall that you realize who was truly there out of conviction and who was just there out of convenience. We've reached the third point of this video, and this is where things start to change. You don't need anyone to be strong, but you do to fall, and understanding this will save you from many disappointments. From a young age, we're taught that having support is synonymous with success. We're told that the bonds we build are our greatest strength. But the truth is that more often than not, those bonds are nothing but loose threads that snap when life gets tough. If you doubt this, think of all the people who have disappeared when you needed them most. Friendships that seemed unbreakable, family members who promised to be there, partners who swore unconditional love. Where are they now? The reality is that many of those connections were not your true support, but just a mirage of companionship. And when you blindly trust that someone else will carry your burden, you become fragile, without even realizing it. Marcus Aurelius understood this well when he wrote, "Do not waste what remains of your life worrying about others, unless it benefits the common good." This means you can value people, but you must not depend on them to find your strength. The key is to build an inner foundation so solid that when someone leaves, when a relationship ends, when you face illness or loss, you don't feel like your world is falling apart. And to achieve this, there's a clear strategy. Start living as if you were already alone. Not in the sense of isolating yourself or rejecting companionship, but in preparing your mind and your life to not need anyone beyond what is essential. Think of a well-built house. It doesn't matter if it rains, if the wind howls, or if winter bites hard, because its structure is solid. Now imagine a poorly made house held together by old, mismatched boards. Any storm will tear it down. Your inner strength is just like that. If it's based on the presence of others, on external validation, on company as a lifeline, then it's fragile. But if you build it with emotional independence, discipline, and clarity about who you are without needing others, then no abandonment can knock you down. This is where Stoic philosophy gives us an invaluable tool. Epictetus used to say that the greatest proof of freedom is not depending on what is outside your control. And the truth is that other people are always outside your control. You can't make someone stay. You can't force anyone to love you the way you love. And you can't guarantee that the bonds you have today will still be intact tomorrow. But you can make sure that, no matter what happens, you will remain standing. Try it. Start making decisions without worrying about what others will think. Learn to enjoy your own company, not as a form of resignation, but as an opportunity. If you want to travel, travel alone. If you want to learn something new, don't wait for someone else to be motivated with you. If you need to talk, start writing instead of depending on a conversation. And if one day you realize that there's no one around, that the phone doesn't ring, that the house is silent, see it as a challenge, not a punishment. If you manage to make those moments feel light, you will have conquered something that few achieve in life: true emotional independence. If what you're hearing so far is making you think, subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up, because what's coming next is even deeper. I want to know from which country you're watching, so drop me a comment below. Share this phrase if it resonates with you. I build my strength without depending on anyone. And don't go away, because the final lesson in this video will completely change how you see independence and relationships. If you've made it this far, you already understand that independence is not just about being alone. It's about knowing how to stand strong without emotionally relying on anyone. But there's something that can break even the strongest foundation: ingratitude. And here we reach the fourth point of this video, one that can completely change the way you see human relationships. Make peace with ingratitude, and you will be invulnerable. Because if you don't learn to accept it, you'll spend your life waiting for something that will never come. and every disappointment will become an open wound. The most dangerous mental trap we fall into is believing that love, effort, or dedication creates a debt in others. We think that if we've given our best, if we were there during the hardest times, if we were unconditional parents, partners, or friends, then the least we can expect is reciprocity. But life doesn't work by those rules. No one has an eternal obligation to give back what we gave. The problem is that we were never taught to see ingratitude as something natural. We were told that if we did good, we would receive the same in return. That if we raised children with love, we would be cared for with love. That if we were always present, others would do the same for us. But the reality is different, and the sooner you accept it, the freer you will be. Ingratitude is like rain. It can fall at any moment without warning, without any fair reason. You can give your life for someone and still be forgotten. You can be present at every stage and still be treated with indifference. And if you're not prepared for this, the blow can be devastating. Many people reach old age with a sense of betrayal that haunts them. They wonder why their children only visit when it's convenient, why lifelong friends have disappeared, why those they gave so much to seem to have forgotten all they did. That bitterness takes root in the mind and turns into poison. It makes every gesture of indifference feel like a stab, every act of neglect feel like confirmation that everything was in vain. And that's how ingratitude stops being an external fact and becomes an internal prison. But here's the key. Ingratitude can only hurt you if you expect gratitude. If you accept that no one is obligated to acknowledge you, to thank you, or to give back what you gave, everything changes. It's not about becoming insensitive or stopping yourself from giving. It's about giving without the illusion that you will receive something in return. Seneca once said, "The wise man gives without remembering and receives without forgetting." That's true freedom. When you do something for someone, do it because you choose to, because it's part of who you are, not because you're waiting for a future reward. Think about this. If someone you helped ignores you today, what really changes in your life? Does what you gave lose its value? Does the love you gave cease to exist because the other person doesn't acknowledge it? The truth is, ingratitude can only hurt you if you let it. If instead of taking it as a personal offense, you see it as part of the world, as further proof that control over others is an illusion, then it will no longer have power over you. Learning to let go of the expectation of gratitude is one of the hardest tests, but also one of the most liberating. It allows you to move forward without resentment, without the weight on your soul, without wasting your energy waiting for something that will probably never come. And when you achieve that, you become invulnerable. Nothing can take away your peace because you no longer live dependent on the recognition of others. And that, more than anything else, is true power. If you've understood that ingratitude is part of the world and not some unpaid debt, then you're on your way to true independence. But there's something you still need to strengthen, because without it, any progress will crumble. We've reached the 5th point of this video, and it's this. Your mind is your only refuge, so strengthen its walls. Because when life takes everything external away from you, the only thing left will be what you've built within yourself. The problem is that most people live without realizing their mind is an undefended territory. They let anything enter without a filter, useless worries, accumulated resentments, fears that paralyze them. They allow themselves to be dragged down by thoughts they repeat like defeatist mantras. I'm alone. Nobody values me. It's too late. And without even realizing it, they become prisoners of their own mind. But tell me, what would you do if you knew your house was being robbed every day by thieves? Would you keep leaving the door open? That's exactly what you do when you let fear, frustration, and emotional dependence take control of your mind. The consequences are devastating. When your mind is not a refuge but a battlefield, life becomes unbearable. Every disappointment becomes a reminder of how alone you feel. Every act of disregard becomes confirmation that you're worthless. Every passing day becomes proof that everything is lost. It's a slow but relentless poison. It weakens you, makes you dependent on external validation, strips you of your self-respect. And when you lose respect for your own mind, what's left? Nothing. Just emptiness. Just a space where any destructive thought has power over you. But there's something you can do, and it's not a quick fix or a cheap self-help trick. It's a process, a daily construction that requires discipline and courage. Strengthening your mind means consciously choosing which thoughts you allow to enter and which ones you reject. It means being alert, not letting emotions take control without questioning them. It means understanding that you are not your thoughts, you are their master. Marcus Aurelius put it clearly, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And if every day you repeat ideas of defeat, your life will take that shape. Start with a simple but powerful exercise. When a negative thought arrives, question it. Ask yourself if it's really true, if it helps you in any way, if it strengthens you or weakens you. It's not about fooling yourself with empty optimism, but about regaining control over what you choose to believe. Also, learn to feed your mind with what strengthens it. Readings that awaken your spirit, conversations that add value, moments of reflection where you can empty the world's noise and listen to your own voice. And above all, remember that mental peace is not something you find, it's something you build. If you expect the world to give you stability, you will always lose. If you expect others to fill the emptiness of your soul, you will live with eternal hunger. But if you make your mind a strong refuge, nothing will be able to knock you down. Not loneliness, not ingratitude, not the passage of time. Because when the outside world collapses, the only thing that can hold you up is what you carry within. So ask yourself right now, how strong is my inner fortress? If the answer doesn't satisfy you, it's time to start rebuilding. If you've understood that your mind is your only fortress, then you already know that everything external can collapse at any moment. But there's something else you must face, something most people avoid until it's too late, learning to lose without losing yourself. Because life isn't measured by what you keep, but by what you're able to let go of without your essence falling apart. Imagine waking up one day to realize that everything you once took for granted is gone. The people who were once by your side have taken different paths, some by choice, others because life gave them no other option. The strength that used to carry you is no longer the same. Your body demands a different pace, your environment has changed, and what once seemed unchangeable has faded away like sand slipping through your fingers. You don't need to imagine it too hard because, in one way or another, you've already lived it. You've lost people, moments, places, and each loss has left its mark. But the question is not what you've lost, but how much of yourself has gone with those absences. The biggest mistake is believing that everything that leaves takes a piece of our identity with it, that without certain roles, we are nothing, that without the validation of others, we cease to exist, that if we're not needed by someone, our life has lost its value. This is the cruelest trap our mind sets for us. We cling to what was, to what we had, to who we once were, without realizing that life was never about accumulating, but about letting go. And if you don't learn to lose with dignity, every loss will destroy a little more of you. Look around you. How many people do you know who are trapped in the past, reminiscing with nostalgia about who they were, what they had, what they accomplished. They become shadows of themselves, dragging guilt, resentment, and a silent pain no one else can see. Every day is a tally of what's missing, of what's no longer there. And with every loss, their identity crumbles a little more. It's not them controlling their life, but the absence of what no longer exists. Do you really want to be one of them? The Stoics understood clearly that life is a series of detachments. Epictetus said, "Don't say I lost it, say instead I gave it back." Because nothing truly belongs to us, not people, not titles, not youth, not even our own image of ourselves. Everything that arrives will at some point leave. But the only thing that can never leave, unless you give it away, is your ability to move forward with your head held high. Learning to lose without losing yourself means accepting that every farewell, every change, every stage that ends is just another transition along the way. It means understanding that you are not less because you are different from who you once were. It means looking in the mirror without comparing yourself to past versions of yourself, without measuring your worth by what you've managed to keep. It means that no matter what happens, the essence of who you are remains intact. If up until now you've felt defeated by what life has taken from you, it's time to change your perspective. You haven't lost, you've transformed. You are not less, you are different. And if you manage to see loss as part of the journey, not as the end of the road, then you will truly be free. Because what is gone does not define what remains. And what remains is enough to keep moving forward if you decide it to be so. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you knows you can't keep living the way you were. You've seen how emotional dependence weakens you, how the fear of loneliness keeps you trapped, how ingratitude wounds you, how an untrained mind becomes your worst enemy, and how losses can make you forget who you are. But now, it's time to talk about what truly defines your freedom. We've reached the seventh and final point of this video, and if you understand this, you will have taken the most important step. Real independence is not about being alone, it's about knowing how to choose. Many people confuse independence with isolation. They believe being strong means not needing anyone, closing doors, and hardening themselves against life. But that's not strength, it's fear disguised as pride. True independence doesn't lie in rejecting human connection, but in having the clarity to know who deserves a place in your life and who doesn't. It's the ability to open the door with discernment and close it without guilt when necessary. The problem is that most people don't choose, they simply let life decide for them. They surround themselves with people out of habit, obligation, or fear of emptiness. They stay in relationships that drain them, maintain friendships that no longer make sense, tolerate disrespect because they think it's better than being alone. But if you keep allowing what doesn't serve you, you're betraying the most important lesson of all. Your time is sacred and should not be wasted on those who don't value it. Imagine that every person in your life is like a guest in your house. Some enter and fill the space with light, with respect, with conversations that uplift you. And some arrive empty-handed, leaving messes behind, taking whatever they can before leaving without even looking back. If someone did that in your home, would you let them stay? Then why do you allow it to happen in your life? Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And one of the cruelest ways to waste your life is by sharing it with those who do not honor it. At this point, the question you must ask yourself is simple and brutal. Who are you still keeping in your life only because you're afraid of being alone? Because every relationship you maintain without conviction is a weight you drag along, a leak of energy, a distraction from what truly matters. Independence is not about isolating yourself from the world, but about knowing with precision who you share your path with. Because when you choose from awareness and not from need, the people who remain by your side are those who truly add value. And when you learn to close the door without resentment, without excuses, without fear, you discover that true companionship is not about quantity, but quality. If up until now you've been living passively, allowing what you don't deserve, justifying the unjustifiable, it's time to wake up. Don't wait for life to force you to learn the hard way what you can decide by your own will today. Because the difference between a life lived with dignity and a life dragged down by conformity comes down to one thing: the courage to choose. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you refuses to keep living a lie. Not everyone is ready to hear what we've discussed today. Most people prefer to deceive themselves, telling themselves things will change on their own, that time will fix what's already broken. But not you. You've chosen to listen, to face what many avoid, and that already puts you on another level. Now the question is, what will you do with this? Because knowledge without action is useless. Knowing that dependence weakens you, that the fear of loneliness traps you, that ingratitude is inevitable, that your mind must be your refuge, that losses cannot define you, and that true independence lies in choosing who you share your time with, means nothing if you keep living as if you didn't know these truths. Today you have two paths. You can turn off this video and go back to the same old excuses, justifications, and that false comfort of it's hard to change. Or you can decide that this is the moment when everything starts to be different. No one is going to rescue you from a life that doesn't satisfy you. No one is going to change for you what you've been putting off for years. Freedom is not something you find, it's something you take. And only those who have the courage to take that step stop being victims of their circumstances and become the owners of their destiny. I want you to leave a comment saying, "I choose my path," along with your country, so you know you're not alone in this decision. So that when others arrive here and see those words, they understand there's a community of people who have decided to wake up. Because that's what the Stoic Garden is all about. Reminding you that life is not what happens to you, but what you do with it. We're not here to offer cheap comfort or empty promises, but to push you to take control once and for all. If this message resonates with you, subscribe now and join this community of those who have decided not to settle. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to hear it, even if they won't admit it. Sometimes, an uncomfortable truth is the only thing that can save us from repeating the same mistakes. And don't stop here. On the screen, you'll find more content to help you keep building your independence and inner strength. See you in the next video.